Part 19. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 183. Yejing's face froze, his ears were not working well, he seemed to have misheard what Jizikyo said, so he asked again. Chief, what did you say? With a smile on his face and joy in his eyes, Jizikyo repeated, let us build a country happily together. Hiss. Yejing instantly took a breath of air and looked at Jizikyo with his eyes wide open. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? He hurriedly recited the core socialist values in his heart. Prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, rule of law, patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendliness. Hold on, don't panic. After he finished reciting silently, he turned to look at Gray. Gray looked at Jizikyo blankly, his mind was in chaos, and he had the same idea as Yejing. Is this person crazy? The two of them looked at each other and saw the intention to retreat in each other's eyes. In a place like this, it's better to leave before it's too deeply involved, right? Chief, why do you suddenly want to found a country? Yejing was puzzled. How crazy must he be to have such an idea? Now that the entire Blue Star is shattered and unified under the management of the Federation can mobilize everything from the 3 disaster experts to large-scale resources. This is the largest collective in the entire Blue Star. How could they possibly agree to someone being self-reliant? Jizikyo shook his head, it's not that I suddenly wanted it, but I have been planning it. Everyone in the entire organization knows about it, even the federal directors know about it. After saying that, Jizikyo waved to Ai Zyakoi, Zyakoi, give what you have in your hands to the two of them. Ai Zyakoi trembled when she heard Jizikyo's voice. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at him. She took small steps and walked up to Yejing and Gray, handing each of them a stack of thick paper. What is this? Yejing frowned and looked intently. Teaching book. I voluntarily, willingly, very happily, and willingly join the Xuanhuan organization, become an entry-level member of the organization, make progress with the organization, develop together with the members, build the organization free of charge, and dedicate my life to Xuanhuan. Note. After inviting 10 friends and relatives to join the organization, you can be upgraded to an intern-level member. After inviting 50 relatives and friends to join the organization, they can be upgraded to outside members. After inviting 100 friends to join the organization, they can be upgraded to core members. Inviter, Yejing. Personal signature. Handprint. Isn't this the paper he handed to someone when he was stopped on the street? Yejing had a dark look on his face. Why do you give me this? When he saw that the inviter was his name, his hands almost shook and he threw away all the teaching documents. Jizikyo looked calm and said in a calm tone, now everyone in the organization is distributing this thing all over Blue Star to attract ordinary citizens to join. In half a year, 230,000 ordinary citizens have been attracted. 230,000 in half a year. Yejing was shocked. What on earth do you want to do? Jizikyo raised his hand slightly to signal Yejing to calm down, and then explained, now there are more and more medium and large planet fragments controlled by Blue Star, and there is not much left to manage, so many planets will be the fragments were all resold to very large groups. It would be too wasteful not to use this kind of planetary debris with huge land. Later, after discussions at a council meeting and big data calculations, we came up with a solution, which is to relocate. The major forces will purchase planet fragments on their own, prepare their own reserve personnel, move them out of Blue Star, and disperse them to other planet fragments controlled by Blue Star. Jizikyo finished a long paragraph in one breath and gave Yejing and Gray time to think before continuing. Large tracts of land need to be filled with people. Now the Federation is even rumored to abolish monogamy and focus on expanding the population. Yejing was so shocked that he had nothing to say. His level was too low and he had no idea that the higher UPS had such plans. Migrate the people on Blue Star to fragments of other planets, rebuild cities, and even establish countries. How courageous! Aren't you afraid of riots? Yejing pointed to a thick stack of admission books in his hand. Is this the reserve citizen of the Xuanhuan organization? Jizuki nodded and said helplessly, many forces are already acting secretly now. Unfortunately, our organization has taken the elite route. There are too few people and we cannot even spread out throughout Blue Star. Yejing's body was a little stiff and he laughed dryly, so, you don't want us to hand out flyers, right? Jizuki said solemnly, it's not about handing out flyers, it's about recruiting people. Aren't they all the same? Depend on. Yejing almost cursed out loud, asking us to come over and work as laborers to hand out leaflets. Don't do it. Even if I kill you, I won't do it. I would rather go home and practice cultivation than work as a laborer. Yejing was a little angry, but Gray on the side was even more angry than him. He pointed at himself, stared, and said angrily, you want me, the first heir of a big family, to hand out flyers? I have never worked before. Don't go. Jizuki ignored the excited expressions of the two people and said calmly, recruit an ordinary citizen and 1,000 spiritual stones. When does it start? Yejing said. You don't need this little money, Gray said. Two different words sounded at the same time, and then both of them looked at each other. Yejing looked at Gray with contempt and said disdainfully, you are a waste who can't support yourself. Do you want your family to support you for the rest of your life? 1,000 spirit stones per person, you win, I'll do the job. But let's do it together. Gray's face was gloomy, it's useless to motivate me, I can't go to work. How much is 1,000 spirit stones? He eats more than this for breakfast. Don't do it. Jizuki glanced at Gray and said lightly, either send it all, or I will follow you for a month, choose. As soon as the voice fell, Gray's body suddenly stepped back several steps, looking at him with fear, gritting his teeth and said, threat me. Jizuki nodded, yes, it was a threat, he was now short of people and going crazy, he had no cultivators at all, and he couldn't let ordinary people recruit ordinary people. Now he met one, naturally he couldn't let it go. Anyway, it's his own physique, it's a waste not to use it. Gray's face was gloomy, from white to black, from black to purple, his chest rose and fell, obviously he was angry. Okay. I'm scared. The next second, Gray's face suddenly changed. There was no way to not admit defeat. If he let this rotten thing follow him for a month, wouldn't that mean he would die 10,000 times? He had just witnessed Yejing's miserable condition with his own eyes, and he was almost dead. He endured it? Isn't it just handing out flyers? I'll pay someone to hand them out. Hearing that both of them agreed, Jizuki smiled with satisfaction and called Ai Zayakui. Zayakui, take them both with you, and choose any of the 5 outer districts. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 185. Not only Yejing and Gray have to do it, but Ai Zayakui also has to do it, and she has been doing it for a long time. After returning from the ruins of Gukan, the only job in her hands is to go to the streets to recruit people and prepare for the future. Compared with the two newcomers, Yejing and Gray, she still has a lot of experience, and she doesn't want to stay in the same place as the chief. After hearing that she was asked to take care of the newcomers, she nodded repeatedly. Jizuki waved his hand, you go ahead, remember to be serious and don't make mistakes. This is all about performance. People with poor performance will be punished. What punishment? Spend a day alone with you. That's really scary. Ai Zayakui took out a stack of teaching books from the bottom of the counter. After putting in the storage bracelet, she glanced at Yejing and Gray, and then her whole body turned into a shadow and attached to the wall, far away from the chief, and left the stronghold as if fleeing. The two of them did the same, bypassing the chief, and quickly walked out of the stronghold, and the three of them met outside the street. "Where are we going?" Gray asked, thinking the further away the better, as long as no one was watching. Izayakui thought for a while and said, "Go to the 22nd district. If you haven't been anywhere before, the chances are higher." District 22? Yejing looked around, turned to Gray and said, "Summon Xiaowu, we can't walk past." Gray nodded and agreed. "From here to the 22nd district, we have to cross several blocks. Walking there will be slow to death. Xiaowu is a very good follower, and he is always on call perfectly." After a phone call, within a few minutes, he drove Gray's hearse and sped over. "Master, where are you going?" Xiaowu asked after several people got in the car. "District 22. This is a hearse worth millions. It starts very fast. When the hearse flicks and the hearse drifts, the speed reaches full speed. Moreover, Xiaowu also belongs to the ranks of veteran drivers. He knows all skills and is self-taught." After the car drove away, Xiaowu glanced at Izayakui from the car lights, who was bowing his head silently, and pretended not to care and said, "Master, I just went to get some Alice, do you still have it? Do you need it, for you?" Alice. Upon hearing this name, Yejing glanced directly at Gray and said with contempt, "I remember you also ate that kind of thing when we were on the asteroid fragments. You still eat it now? Are you not good at it?" Not only Yejing, but also Izayakui, who lowered her head and said nothing, also raised her head and looked at Gray with a strange expression. She was wandering around the outer 5 districts. She had also heard of the now super popular Alice drug. What the hell? Is it okay if the two medicines are not next to each other? Gray said with a dark face, "Don't listen to Xiaowu's nonsense. Alice is a very strong psychoactive drug that can produce hallucinogenic effects. After taking it, it will have any additional effects. If you think about it again, the effect is that kind of medicine for wretched people. Furthermore, the effect of Alice is not only to induce hallucinations, but also to strengthen mental power. Otherwise, why do you think it is so expensive? Why is it why? Strengthening mental power," Yejing asked in surprise, "is there such an effect? If this is the case, he will have to think about it. We are about to enter the underground palace realm. In the underground palace realm, the most important thing is spiritual power and soul strength. If the mental power and soul strength are too weak, you will fall into the trap from the very beginning when dealing with people in the same realm. If you are at a disadvantage, you won't be able to compete with the strength of your physical body and spiritual power." Gray nodded, "Yes, I heard that Alice is condensed from the soul of mass-produced monsters. It is of great help to spiritual power and soul. It is very popular among the practitioners in the outer 5 districts. If it hadn't been for the fact that the family was unknown and didn't report it to the federal government, it would probably have spread internally as well. Unlike practitioners who are new to cultivation in the human realm, practitioners in the underground palace realm have more or less assets in their hands, and converting assets into strength is what they most urgently need. For medicines like this that strengthen mental power, in regular group pharmacies, the price of medicines with the same efficacy will be several % more expensive than Alice, which is not affordable." Yejing subconsciously touched the storage bracelet on his wrist. Xiaowu Zai had just given him a bottle of Alice potion, which was about 30 or 40 grams. According to the value of 10 grams of 10,000 spirit stones, this is 340,000 spirit stones. Try it when you go home at night and see how it works. If the effect is really good, it will be a selling point even if you bite your tongue. After all. He glanced at Gray. He was preparing for the underground palace realm now, right? It's not just Yejing who is excited. Aizayakui on the side has already pricked up her ears. She has already reached the 9th level of the human realm. She can enter the underground palace anytime and anywhere. This kind of medicine that saves money and can increase strength is very suitable. She. Otherwise, find some time to go and take a look. Aizayakui thought to herself. For a follower like Xiaowu, getting around the outer 5 districts is an indispensable skill. He buys many dark side things or things that cannot be bought on the white market, so for those who go to the 22nd district he was still very familiar with the road, and it didn't take long for the car to stop. Arrive. After Gray and others got out of the car, Xiaowu was about to drive the hearse and find a place to rest when he saw Gray waving to him. Xiaowu asked doubtfully, "What's wrong, young master, is there anything else?" Gray smiled, "Come down and walk with me." He would not let such a hard-working worker go. Xiao stopped the hearse on the side of the road with a confused look on his face, followed closely behind Gray, and kept asking what they were going to do. With Xiao, the 4 of them walked for a while and came to a pedestrian street with a huge flow of people. There were pedestrians coming and going, and 99% of them were ordinary citizens living in District 22. What should we do next? Yejing and the other 2 all looked at Aizayakui. Aizayakui was not used to being stared at like this, and felt very awkward. She tightened her body, and after a slight silence, she walked to the side of the road and took out the props she had prepared in advance from the storage bracelet. Bang bang bang. There were several sounds of heavy objects falling to the ground, and a total of 10 boxes of oranges were placed on the ground, and then she took out a huge sign. Fill out the form to get oranges, 10 kilograms per person. There was also a loudspeaker, which played Ji Qinjian's cute girl voice. A certain peace organization is recruiting citizens to fill in the numbers. Fill out the form and get 10 kilograms of oranges. Each person is limited to 1 time. Gray. Xiaowu. Yejing. I was wondering how could Aizayakui, with that kind of personality, go and distribute flyers. So that's what's going on. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 186. What is Aizayakui's personality? To put it mildly, he is an introvert, an activist, the type who doesn't like BB and gets started directly. To put it bluntly, he has done too many tasks and has become autistic. He is taciturn and has a lot of money. With Yejing and the others, they either nod or say a word or 2, let alone hand out flyers. Let her buy one. The dishes are difficult. Yejing looked at the 10 boxes of oranges in front of her, then listened to Ji Qinjian's girly voice on the loudspeaker, and pursed her lips. This must be the attention the little girl paid to her, and it was confirmed. The use of inducements, coupled with the cute female voice, is still very tempting to ordinary citizens. Anyway, it is just a signature, and there is no need for them to do anything to gather the number of people. Sure enough, when the orange and the trumpet appeared at the same time, within a minute, someone came over and asked. It was a staggering old lady, carrying vegetables in her hands, walking over shakily, and asked, "Is it true that just by filling out a form, you can receive 10 pounds of oranges?" Aizayakui stood behind 10 boxes of oranges, nodded, handed over her own invitation letter, and a pen, and said in a calm and concise tone, "Sign your name, and the oranges will go away." The old lady asked again, "Don't you need to do anything?" Aizayakui shook her head, "You can report the lie to the federal government." Then, the old woman only hesitated for a few seconds, filled in her name, and then returned it to Aizayakui. Aizayakui took out an extra large strong cloth bag from underneath, filled it with 10 kilograms of oranges and handed it to the old woman. The transaction is completed. The whole process from inquiry to completion took less than a minute, and Yejing was stunned. Is it that simple? Yejing asked blankly, how many spiritual stones are there for 10 kilograms of oranges? Aizayakoi said lightly, 5 spirit stones. The cost is 5 spirit stones, a member has 1,000 spirit stones, and the net profit is 995 spirit stones. Isn't this spiritual stone so profitable? When one person started the conversation, the rest was easy to explain. After the first old woman walked away carrying 10 pounds of oranges, she attracted the attention of many people. After a while, they gathered around her. What are you doing? Is it community welfare? Or is it a return to society activity? Is it really just a matter of signing your name? I haven't read the book. No need to do anything. A chattering crowd gathered around, each asking random questions. It was so chaotic that Yejing and the other 2 people were so crowded that they all went to the back. It seems that 10 pounds of oranges are quite powerful. In just a few minutes, Aizayakoi and 10 boxes of oranges were tightly surrounded. Facing the large number of citizens and the chaotic noises, Aizayakoi's face stiffened, her body tensed up, a light sweat appeared on her forehead, and her eyes gradually became lifeless. She was not used to this kind of situation. Occasion. I saw Aizayakoi holding her invitation letter with trembling hands and mumbling an answer. This is recruiting. This is not a public good. Just sign, I haven't read the book. Don't do it. Weak, pitiful, and helpless, Yejing looked at her and wanted to help her. Well. Yejing shook his head and sighed, just do your own thing. He walked to the street opposite Aizayakoi, thought for a moment, his eyes lit up, and he took out a pile of spiritual stones from the storage bracelet, which was like half of a small mountain bag. There were thousands of spiritual stones. Before. I don't have oranges, but I have spirit stones. Yejing also took out his invitation letter, took a deep breath, and shouted loudly. Sign to get a spiritual stone. Each person signs 5 spiritual stones, once for each person. Simple and crude, just send money directly. It's a pity that he doesn't have a loudspeaker, so he can only shout by himself. Compared with giving oranges, it seemed more tempting to give spiritual stones directly. A group of people quickly gathered around, asking for Yejing's signature. Take your time and don't rush. Everyone has a part to play. 1, 2, 3, and 10. Isn't this too fast? If you sign your name, you will be given 1,000 spiritual stones. Now you get 10,000 spiritual stones. Yejing's heart was trembling and she was very excited. When did it become so easy to earn spiritual stones? Or are you saying that the spirit stones are worthless? Similarly, a little worry arose in his heart. Will the organization pay for such money? No, I have to ask, don't be too busy then and default on my debt. Taking advantage of an opportunity, he took out his cell phone and sent a message to Aizayakoi. Are you sure the organization will pay this spiritual stone? After a while, Aizayakoi's message came back. Meeting. Yejing raised his eyebrows. Seriously, if you sign like this, I can sign bankruptcy for the organization. Then Aizayakoi told the truth. Each valid member will pay 1,000 spirit stones. Most of these people don't know how many names they have signed. Many have already let other forces take the lead for each of their signatures, only the first one is valid. Yejing. A sudden realization. I said that the money must not be so easy to earn. It turns out that this group of people didn't know how many signatures they signed. Except for the first signature of each person, the rest were all for nothing. So excited. Aizayakoi and Yejing had already started giving away money and oranges. After Gray watched for a few minutes, he directly handed a stack of invitations to Xiaowu. Xiaowu. Gray rolled his eyes and said, "Do you still want me to do it myself?" Xiaowu's mouth twitched, unable to refute, so he had to imitate Yejing and also got out a batch of spirit stones and started shouting. Gray took a rest on the side. The three were very close, and Yejing saw with a dark face that someone got 10 kilograms of oranges from Aizayakui, came to him to get 5 spirit stones, and went to Xiaowu to get 5 spirit stones, and left happily. What the hell is this? Are they the suckers? They can only fight for the fish that slipped through the net. After being busy for more than half an hour, Yejing's movements were somewhat mechanical. Just when he was about to call Gray to take a break for a while, he heard a sudden exclamation behind him. Salted fish seller. What a good name. Gray was furious when he heard it, turned his head to look at the voice, and said angrily, "Your family sells salted fish. Vegetable sellers." Yejing also looked back. Behind him, there stood a white-skinned young man in purple clothes. It was Andy, whom he had seen in the fighting arena 2 days ago. He was also a rich second generation like Gray. The only difference was that one sold seafood and the other sold vegetables. Moreover, Andy was followed by more than a dozen people, each holding a large basket of vegetables. One of them was Manzishi, a sophomore from Magic City College who had fought against Yejing before. He was holding a green plaque in his hand. Sign and get 10 kilograms of vegetables. Gray and Andy stared at each other and said in unison. Are you here to recruit people for the family too? Andy said. Are you here to recruit people for the power too? Gray said. Then they were both stunned at the same time and spoke again. What power? Andy was confused. What family? Gray was confused. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 187. People on both sides looked at each other. Andy, who had just come over, looked at the small mountain-like spirit stones at Gray's feet, and Xiaowu, who was shouting hard. Gray saw Andy carrying more than a dozen large baskets of vegetables behind him, including spinach, potatoes, and black fungus. However, this was not what he cared about. He just cared about what Andy said before. Gray was stunned for a moment and wondered, what family are you talking about? What are you recruiting people for? Andy asked in return, aren't you recruiting people for your family? Gray shook his head and looked confused. I already have enough employees selling fish, why are we recruiting more people? Andy laughed out loud when he heard this, so you don't know yet. The Federation has just issued a notice that Blue Star's first population relocation plan also allows various families to participate, as long as they meet the population conditions. You can participate in the fight for the first piece of migrating planetary debris. Gray. Is there such a thing? He had just heard about Blue Star's population relocation plan from the chief. He thought that only large groups and forces were eligible to participate in the competition. Unexpectedly, there were also families involved. Compared with large groups and forces, the advantages and disadvantages of a single family are very obvious. A family is just a circle of people that expands with a single bloodline as a fulcrum. It reproduces and expands outward from the initial generation of bloodline, thereby increasing the family's population and influence. But large groups and forces are different. They are all formed by intertwined interests. It has nothing to do with blood or closeness. As long as there is an intersection of interests, it is considered one of the interpersonal circles. The family is like a tree, it starts from a branch and spreads, and after several generations of accumulation, it slowly grows into a towering tree. Large groups and forces are like spider webs, spreading quickly but also complexly. Compared with groups and forces, the advantages of a single family are loyalty and cohesion, but the disadvantage is also very obvious, that is, there are very few people. When he first heard about the population relocation plan, Gray didn't even think about his family. After counting, including his 7 aunts and 8 aunts, the entire family only had a few hundred core members. How could it be possible to take over such a huge family? Plan. Even an unknown force like Xuanhuan has hundreds of people scattered throughout Blue Star to recruit ordinary people, let alone other big forces. Gray silently looked at the Xuanhuan Black Force invitation in his hand, and then at the spiritual stone at his feet that he paid for with his own money, wondering if I was scheming against the enemy. Just when Gray was stunned, Andy waved, and several people behind him came over carrying vegetables. Andy smiled in the open space next to Gray, just put it here. Bang bang bang, more than a dozen large frames of vegetables hit the ground, and Manzishi, the senior of the Magic City Academy, put the sign in his hand in front of the green vegetables. Another business thief. Yejing glanced sideways at the new Andy, feeling very tired. Is there anything else to do? Compared with giving money, I would rather go out to the city to hunt World of Warcraft. This is really not suitable for me. Yejing secretly thought, I won't come tomorrow at all. I would rather go to the Pioneer Guild to take on the hunting mission than do this stupid thing. Let's go out of town tomorrow. Then he saw it. The citizens received 10 kilograms of oranges from Aizayakui, then came to him and Gray to buy 2 spiritual stones, and finally went to Andy to get vegetables and went home happily. 3 fools. Just when Yejing was thinking wildly, Manzishi walked over and said hello to Yejing. Hi, your name is Yejing, right? Yejing looked at Manzishi, nodded, and forced a smile back. Hello, senior. Manzishi is a second-level student at Magic City Academy. Yejing plans to study at Magic City Academy next year, so it's right to call him a senior. Manzishi came up to Yejing, looked at the pile of spirit stones in front of Yejing, and asked with a smile, it seems that you also want to participate in the competition for the population relocation plan. Yejing flexed his hands and showed a helpless expression, I was just dragged into doing hard labor. Not necessarily. Manzishi glanced at Yejing and said, I have joined a force and are planning to refer to the Demon City Academy. Doesn't this mean that I am ready to join this whirlpool? What do you mean? Yejing asked confused. Don't you know yet? The information is too uninformed, right? Manzishi laughed and did not answer him directly, but asked a question instead. Tell me, if humans encounter competition for resources, what is the best and most correct way to reduce the internal consumption of high-end combat power? Ways to reduce internal friction? Yejing frowned and only thought for a few seconds before he answered. Of course, we use low-end combat power as a representative to compete. He already knew this answer when he was in Gukan. In order to fight for a small asteroid fragment, a group of students were thrown onto the asteroid fragment, and none of the high-end combat power was lost. After he answered, he suddenly froze for a moment, showing an expression of sudden realization. Could it be that? That's right. Manzishi nodded and said, Blue Star's local population relocation plan is to enhance the control of large and medium-sized planetary fragments. It is a matter that belongs to Blue Star humans. The first batch of places is limited, and we can do it with the minimum amount of money. Internal friction is the most perfect solution. If you want to satisfy everyone and not lose high-end combat power, you can only let the younger generation of each family fight. Using the future elites of Blue Star to compete for this quota will not only reduce internal friction, but also provide experience, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Yejing asked, so the stage is set in the academy. He probably already knew what the people above were going to do. In the final analysis, there was still a fight, but the high-end combat power would not go out, only the low-end combat power would go out. Manzishi glanced at Andy and Gray, then looked at Aizayakui on the opposite street, and asked, which family do you represent? Yejing twitched his mouth and handed over the invitation in his hand. Manzishi looked down and trembled all over, almost throwing the invitation in his hand away. It turned out to be the power of that unlucky guy. He hurriedly stuffed the invitation back into Yejing's arms, and rubbed his hands hard, fearing that he would be contaminated with bad luck. Yejing's face was dark. Is he so famous? Unlucky guy, isn't he talking about the chief? However, this adjective is not quite appropriate, because it is not the chief who is unlucky, but the people who come into contact with the chief. Don't you know? Manzishi looked at the invitation with a taboo face, as if he remembered something terrible. Jizukiu is the chief of the second-level students of our college. The title of the human molder was spread from the college. The chief of the second-level students of the Magic City College? Yejing was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that their chief was actually the chief of the second-level students of the Magic City College. It was really scary. The chief of Yujianhei, the chief of the second-level students of the Magic City College, is this the legendary human elite? After a pause, Manzishi looked at Yejing with pity, patted his shoulder silently, and said in a pitiful tone, "Be careful yourself." Then, he coughed twice and continued to transmit information to Yejing. Yejing also listened silently. He had no source of information at all, and he didn't know what information was conveyed above. He was in a dark situation. Every year after students enter the school, the Federation will hold a freshman competition for all Blue Star colleges in order to allocate resources for the year, and allocate resources based on the college rankings. January is the time for freshmen to enter the school, and February is the time for the college competition. It is also at this time that the Federation is preparing to issue quotas for the population migration plan. Enrollment in January, and the competition in February, competing for a year's resources. What a tight schedule. In less than a month after enrollment, I can't learn anything at all. It can even be said that this month is just for freshmen to prepare for the competition. It is estimated that after the competition, it will be considered the real start of school. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 188. Hearing so much news in one go, Yejing felt a little dizzy and reorganized it. If the reference is successful next year and he enters Magic City College, he will directly participate in the freshman competition of Blue Star College. At the same time, it seems that he may also represent the Yuejian Black Force in the competition for the population relocation plan. He couldn't be sure. After all, he wasn't the only one in Yujianhei. Thinking about it, Yejing glanced at Ai Zayakui, who was looking stiff across the street, and couldn't help but sigh for her secretly. The chief didn't force her to refer to Magic City Academy. I pulled she while standing on my head, and then connected it with my mouth. After sorting out his thoughts, Yejing looked at Manzishi with a grateful face and thanked him. "Thank you, senior. If anything happens in the future, I can also help." Manzishi waved his hand very grandly and said he didn't care. "This is all a trivial matter. As long as you can prevent Jizuki from coming to the academy in this life, I will thank you on behalf of all the students of Magic City Academy." "Is it so lethal?" Yejing was ashamed. "I can't do it." When he recalled the previous scene, he couldn't help but shuddered all over. He almost died after just being touched on the shoulder by the chief. How terrifying it was. I really don't know what kind of woman will be able to withstand the killing power of the chief in the future. I guess it will be impossible if she is not lucky enough to be at the super high school level. The two of them were chatting happily, and Andy and Gray also hooked up for some reason. Andy winked and said, "Want to take a walk tonight?" Gray had a lustful smile on his face. "What level?" "The most luxurious one." "My treat." "So proud." "That's how heroic." "Then let's do it." The two of them had their arms around each other, and Gray didn't forget to say hello to Yejing. "Yejing, want to go out for a cool night, the highest class, do you want to go?" Yejing looked at these two people and couldn't help but think of a word in his mind. Embarrassing and committing adultery. Don't go. He didn't forget that when he first came to Magic City, Gray asked him to be cool. At that time, he was still full of anxiety. Who knew it was just a colorless massage? From then on, he no longer believed in Gray's coolness. As soon as they left, Gray and Andy didn't care about the purpose of their visit. They just left their followers behind, took Andy's car, and left. Yejing looked at the fewer and fewer spiritual stones in front of him, and then at the citizens who came to him to fill out forms with oranges in one hand. His heart was bleeding. These were all given away for free. He gritted his teeth and stamped his feet. Hum it, do whatever you want, strike. As he spoke, he shouted at Xiaowu, Xiaowu, take me home. Xiaowu paused and said blankly, but the young master didn't let me leave. Yejing secretly cursed a fool, waved his hand, put all his own and Gray's spiritual stones into the storage bracelet, pulled Xiaowu out and walked out. If he asks you, just say I let him. After Xiaowu was stunned for a moment, he didn't refute and got into the car silently. Since there was someone carrying him, he didn't have anything to fear. After a while, the two people ran away, leaving Ai Zyakoi still working hard. Ai Zyakoi's face was stiff and she looked at the two people speeding away expressionlessly. She unconsciously exerted force on her hands and smashed two oranges. Don't leave me alone. Why don't you say hello to me? After sitting in the comfortable luxury car, Yejing breathed a sigh of relief and leaned comfortably on the soft chair. This kind of bad work is not done by humans at all. I would rather fight than do this. In the car, after Yejing calmed down for a while, he suddenly thought of something and asked Xiaowu, did you just go buy Alice? Xiaowu nodded, what? Brother Jing, do you still want it? I'm getting some for you. Yejing nodded, give me another bottle. I'll give it a try when I get back. As for the money, I'll tell Gray later. Xiaowu gave him a bottle of Alice before, which was only 35 grams. He will go back later to try the effect on increasing his mental power, but it may not be enough. After Xiaowu responded, he threw another crystal bottle to Yejing, which contained 7-colored liquid. He smiled evilly and said, Brother Jing, you have to rely on your imagination for this thing. The richer your imagination, the better. The more exciting it is. It's better to search for some pictures on the internet, like that beautiful girl idol Ling Qiluo, it's very good. Yejing's face darkened, I'm not here for sexual intercourse. I understand, men. Haha, you know a thing. After driving smoothly, Yejing arrived home about an hour later. After getting off the car, Yejing suddenly felt something in his heart that he had forgotten. It seems like there is someone else at home. Yejing hurriedly opened the door, fearing that the crazy woman would tear down his home. After opening the door, Yejing rushed into the living room and glanced around. The sofa is not broken, the TV is not broken, the glass is not broken, it is intact. Huh, consider her honest. Yejing just breathed a sigh of relief. When he turned his eyes, he saw a faint figure in red on the ground, and he was suddenly shocked. Damn it, why did you faint? Yejing quickly came forward, squatted down, and slapped Siu's bloodless face. Slippery and cold. Hey, hey, hey. You're not going to die, are you? Don't kill my family. Yejing stretched out her hand to check her breathing, her heart sank and she was out of breath. He grabbed Siu's hand again and felt for his pulse. It was cold and there was no fluctuation, and his heart became even heavier. No way. Really dead? A trace of sweat appeared on Yejing's forehead, and the faint fragrance of Siu filled his nose. Her beautiful body fell to the ground without any defense. Don't be really dead. Suddenly, Siu opened her eyes suddenly, and a red light flashed in her enchanting pupils, which scared Yejing's hands. Oh my god. She's dead. Before Yejing could retreat, Siu's delicate body rushed towards him and threw Yejing to the ground. Then, she leaned down, opened her red lips, exhaled fragrant breath, and bit Yejing's neck fiercely, bleeding directly. You bit me. Yejing felt the severe pain from his neck, and subconsciously wanted to push her away, but found that he couldn't do anything at all. Siu closed her eyes slightly, biting Yejing's neck with her red lips, sucking his blood continuously. An expression of satisfaction appeared on her seductive face. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Buletin Bayet. Chapter 189. Yejing felt the numbness in his neck, and the blood slowly drained from his neck, which startled him. He subconsciously reached out to push Siu away, but found that he didn't have the strength. He was extremely weak all over, and even raising his arms was a bit difficult. His body was numb, as if he had been injected with a paralysis needle, and was extremely stiff. What the hell is this thing? Yejing cursed inwardly, took a breath, bit the tip of his tongue, and the bloody taste flowed in his mouth. The intense pain finally made him free up a little space, and he used his strength to push Siu away several meters. At the same time, when Siu's lips left his neck, the numbness that spread throughout his body suddenly disappeared, and his stiff and weak body also recovered at a very fast speed. Yejing touched his neck, and felt a touch in his palm. There were 2 small mouth marks on his neck, and there was a faint blood flowing out. What the hell is this? Yejing stepped back slightly and looked at Siu with a vigilant look, fearing that she would rush over and drink his blood again. Siu, who was originally in a coma, woke up immediately after drinking Yejing's blood. She sat on the ground and looked at Yejing blankly, with a look of helplessness on her face. Ah, what happened? Her eyes revealed confusion. While speaking, she stretched out her pink tongue and licked her lips. What a sweet taste, what drink did you give me? Yejing even wanted to kill her. He said with a dark face, that's not a drink, that's my blood. Siu looked surprised, are you so good to me? You even let me drink your own blood. Yejing's face became darker and darker. He pointed at his still bleeding neck and said angrily, you rushed over yourself, okay. What the hell are you doing? How come you drank human blood? Ahem. Siu looked at Yejing's neck, which was still printed with her lip prints. She couldn't help but look embarrassed. She coughed twice, stood up from the ground, tidied up her messy collar, sat on the sofa, and spoke. Didn't I say this before? When I woke up, my body mutated. It seemed that the blood of the ancestor in my body awakened and transformed me into a blood clan, or a vampire. Blood clan? Vampire? Such legendary creatures really exist. Yejing was shocked. He also sat on the sofa, but he was far away from Siu, fearing that she would drink blood again. Siu rolled her eyes, the world is like this, what else is legendary? Everything that should appear has appeared. Yejing was speechless. It seemed that it was true. The world was in such a mess. How could there be any legends? Now is the time to create legends. His eyes moved to Siu's red lips, and he swallowed a little, and said in shock, what happened to you and my blood before? Siu shook her head and said with embarrassment, I don't have that part of the memory. I only know that I fainted, and when I woke up, I saw you in front of me. After that, she asked curiously, what did I do to you? Nothing happened, you just threw me to the ground, bit my neck with your teeth, drank my blood, and then I don't know why, the moment you bit me, my body seemed to be paralyzed, and I couldn't move at all. Yejing said unhappily. He still has some lingering fears. At this point, his blood has been drunk by others. Isn't this woman too dangerous? Once there is a first time, there will be a second time. This time she ate blood and lost her memory. Maybe she will attack when she is awake next time. It's too dangerous. Siu only knew that she was in the wrong. Her eyes were erratic. She didn't dare to look at Yejing directly. In her lips, her tongue kept stirring in her mouth, and she was still savoring the taste of Yejing's blood, which was fragrant and sweet. I want to drink. I want to drink. After speaking out her true feelings, Siu quickly covered her mouth and looked at Yejing with an awkward smile. I want to drink. Yejing, . You are kidding me. Yejing stood up suddenly, left a word, and walked to the second floor. I'll give you 3 days to prepare, and then leave my house. No. Siu panicked when she heard it, and grabbed Yejing's arm directly, pleading, don't. I just fainted just now, and I won't do it again in the future. One day, the comfortable room, the soft big bed, the fresh air, everything has conquered her. She doesn't want to go back to live in the bridge hole. Yejing looked down at Siu and sneered, is this also something you can control? Siu nodded repeatedly, I can control it. I have been awake for 3 years, and this kind of thing is the first time it has happened. It must be an accident. I don't believe you. You are a very bad woman. Yejing shook off Siu's hand, feeling a little soft-hearted, but still said coldly, let's see how you behave in the next 3 days. If it happens again, you will leave immediately. After saying that, he did not look back to see Siu's expression, and went upstairs to his room. In fact, he still had a question in his heart. Aren't vampires afraid of the sun? Why did he see Siu living in the sun intact before? There are not many people who have mutations, changes in their bodies. Why are there always such people around me? Among the people he knew, several had their bodies mutated after the spiritual energy was revived. Unfortunately, he had nothing to do with it, which made him very envious and jealous. Back in the room, Yejing shook this thought out of his head. Forget it. Don't think about it anymore. Let's try Alice. He sat on the bed and took out the 2 bottles of colorful liquid that Xiaowu gave him, which added up to 50 grams. Alice is a hallucinogenic drug that has the ability to strengthen mental power. Yejing is now at the 8th level of the human realm. He is about to rush to the underground palace realm. It's time to prepare for the underground palace realm. How much should I drink this sip? Yejing frowned and looked at the crystal bottle in his hand, muttering, he forgot to ask Xiaowu for the dosage before, and didn't know how much to drink in 1 sip. No matter, it won't kill people anyway. Yejing took a deep breath, opened a bottle directly, tilted his head, and poured it all into his mouth in 1 gulp. The colorful liquid flowed down his throat, smooth, with a little sweetness and an inexplicable fragrance, and the cool feeling flowed down his throat to his stomach. Instantly, Yejing opened his eyes sharply, and the moment Alice flowed into his body, his heart beat several times, and he felt his brain swell and become confused. Then his eyes went black and he fainted. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 190. Xiaowu said that Alice would hallucinate according to her own thoughts, which is why in the end. But why is my why this? When Yejing opened his eyes, his body was no longer in the room, but in another space. He knew that all this was fake, and he was now in a hallucinogenic state. But Yejing looked at the green grassland and the 1,000 wild wolves in front of him, and his heart was broken. Why is my why this? He was very familiar with this scene, so familiar that he couldn't be more familiar. This was an illusion he had entered on a small planetary fragment, which made him extremely painful and a living and dead illusion. In this illusion, he was abused thousands of times, his body was riddled with holes, and it was repeated back and forth several times. In the end, he shot himself to break the situation. When he thought of the bloody battle at that time, he couldn't help but shiver all over. Unexpectedly, he was brought in again this time. By the way, if it is a hallucination, is that little girl still there? Yejing suddenly turned around, and there was no one behind him. In this illusion, there was only him, and he couldn't help feeling a little lost. Facing 1,000 wild wolves, he suddenly felt that he had fought too many battles and was completely broken. What did others see after drinking Alice? Mature women. Lolita. Pretty girls. All kinds of beauties. What about him? It was actually a battle scene. Hey. Yejing sighed, wondering if he should find a girlfriend. If he continued like this, he would really be broken. Thinking about it, he took out his long knife, held the knife with one hand, pointed it straight ahead, and said, "Come on. I am no longer the person I was at that time." Thousands of wolves rushed, shocking people's hearts, rolling up gusts of wind and sand, and the roaring sound was deafening. The ground shook violently with the wild wolves running, which made Yejing's blood boil. A battle. Yejing didn't wait for the wolves to reach him. He exerted force on his feet, and his body turned into a stream of light. He rushed forward 1 step ahead. 10 meters. 5 meters. 1 meter. When the first wolf pounced on him, Yejing suddenly drew his sword. Under the flashing golden light, the sword energy flew across the space, and the strong wind blew away the grass, and the green grass fragments flew all over the sky. He was no longer the same as he was back then. This first golden sword energy directly passed more than 10 meters away. Wherever it went, no grass grew. All the wild wolves touched by this sharp sword energy full of murderous intent disappeared. In an instant, a vacuum formed in front of him. "I'm here to find a place," Yejing roared, regardless of his defense. Anyway, it was just an illusion and he wouldn't get hurt. He rushed into the wild wolf pack like an arrow, piercing it directly. His body was tense, and all the wild wolves that stood in front of him were killed with one knife. The cold air filled his surroundings, and the murderous aura was everywhere. Trapped in the wild wolf pack, Yejing seemed to be tireless, constantly waving the long knife in his hand, again and again, 10 times and 10 times, 100 times and 100 times. When dozens of wild wolves pounced on him at the same time, his eyes went black, and his vision was blocked. Feeling the tearing sensation on his body, Yejing was not in a hurry. He suddenly exerted force on his waist, holding the knife with one hand, and his body rotated at an extremely fast speed. The golden long knife slashed through the body of the wild wolf, rolling up a small golden tornado. The golden tornado was full of extremely sharp knife energy, and the sharp cold light instantly cut dozens of wild wolves around into pieces. It was the same for anyone who came. If one pounced on him, even the golden tornado could not break through and was cut into pieces. The ultra-high-speed rotation could not last long. After just a few seconds, Yejing felt dizzy and had to stop. As the main body stopped, the golden tornado slowly dissipated. Yejing looked at the tattered surroundings, with a confused look on his face. What did I do just now? Wasn't it just spinning in place? There was no green in the 10-meter radius around him. The hard ground was cut by him, leaving several deep knife marks. How could this look so much like an active skill? Yejing shook his head. It was impossible. The furnace would not allow him to use active skills. It must be just a coincidence. He recalled the action just now. It was nothing more than exerting force on the waist, and then telling it to rotate. While rotating, swinging the knife, forming a golden tornado that wrapped the whole body. Is this called an active skill? This is not. But it can be used, Yejing thought secretly. Many days later, facing the wild wolf pack that once made him wander between death, he could defeat it easily. In a short period of time, Yejing has grown a lot and is no longer the boy with a colored pen. Yejing looked at the wild wolves in front of him with a calm gaze, and suddenly felt bored. They were no longer challenging. Let's end it? Yejing thought silently. I will continue to move forward. The hallucinogenic effect can be removed at any time. When Yejing didn't want to, his eyes suddenly went black. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in the room. Are you back? Yejing stared at his hands blankly. This was the first time he knew that his strength had grown. What should he do next? At this moment, Yejing suddenly felt a sharp pain in his mind. It was very painful, as if his soul was torn apart, and he couldn't help but roar. Ah! The head seemed to explode, swollen and painful, as if something was expanding. Mental power? Hold on. Yejing closed his eyes tightly, clenched his teeth, and thick sweat appeared on his forehead. He endured the severe pain and his body was twitching. I will keep moving forward. This intense pain lasted for several minutes before slowly receding. At this time, Yejing's whole body was soaked with sweat. He lay on the bed and gasped for breath. Who? 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 No one told me that strengthening mental power would hurt so much. Yejing cursed inwardly. As the pain disappeared, it was replaced by a very bright feeling. He felt that his mind was filled with an unprecedented clarity, as if it was purified. Increased by 10%? No. 15%. Feeling the changes in mental power, Yejing couldn't help but show great joy on his face, and directly forgot all the pain in front of him. This bottle of Alice actually increased his mental power by 15%. Is the effect so terrifying? Although his mental power was not high to begin with, and the initial value was very low, he did not expect that it could be increased by 15% in one breath. Yejing could not help but put his eyes on the second bottle. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 191. Yejing had 2 bottles of Alice potion in his hand. He drank 35 grams before, and there was still a bottle of 25 grams left. Although it was very painful to enhance mental strength, some sins had to be endured. Yejing gritted his teeth and did not rest. He raised his head and drank another bottle of Alice at the same time. He began to silently chant about beauties and began to why in his mind he did not want to entangle with the wild wolf in his dream. He closed his eyes, and the first image that appeared in his mind was Siu, who had just pounced on him, with her seductive figure and a flaming face. Siu, Ai Zyakui and other women who had contact with him passed through his mind one by one. Finally, Ji Qinjian appeared, which made him shake his head hurriedly and shake her away, silently saying in his heart that he was not a lowly control. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Yejing suddenly opened his eyes, looking confused. Where is the hallucinogenic effect? Why is there nothing? He looked down at the bottle beside the bed. Could it be a fake medicine? Just as he was wondering, he suddenly felt a strong swelling in his mind. The sudden severe pain caught him off guard and he fell on the bed in an instant. Damn it! Why did they skip the hallucination part that I was most looking forward to? Yejing almost cursed, but unfortunately he had no extra strength to curse. With the intense tearing feeling in his brain, his body began to tremble suddenly, his eyes rolled back, and he fainted again and again. I don't know how long it took before Yejing slowly opened his eyes. His whole body was sore and weak, and he couldn't even lift his arms. His clothes were soaked again, and even the sheets were wet. It's so uncomfortable. Yejing lay on the bed, muttering with lifeless eyes. Not only was he sore in his body, but he also had a strong dizziness in his head, which made him feel nauseous and uncomfortable. How effective is it? This is the key point. Yejing closed his eyes and felt his mental power slightly. Whether it was perception or mental effect, it was about 8% higher, which was far from the first time, but at least it was not in vain. He had never thought that the effect of the second time would be comparable to the first time. If, before taking Alice, his total mental power was 1. After taking the first bottle of Alice, his total mental power became 1.15. After the second bottle, that is, now, his total mental power is 1.242, which is about 20% higher. I am not very satisfied, but at least I will not be disappointed. After resting on the bed for a while, Yejing felt uncomfortable from the sweat on his body. He frowned and just wanted to get up and take a shower in the bathroom, but he found something that surprised him. I broke through. When Yejing moved his body, the spiritual energy in his body actually circulated. The spiritual energy originally stored in the body flowed to the whole body, helping the body relieve fatigue and soreness. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that his body is now 100% full of spiritual energy, which means that he has reached the 9th level of the human realm. His mortal body will soon be transformed into a spiritual body. As long as the transformation is completed, he can successfully break through to the underground palace realm. What a pleasant surprise! Yejing was very happy. His realm did not rely on practice at all. He condensed spiritual energy very rarely. His breakthrough was all due to accidents and furnaces. He was about to reach the underground palace realm. Once he entered the underground palace realm, he would start to condense his spirit and soul. It seemed that he had to find time to get some Alice potions to improve his mental strength before entering the underground palace. Yejing hummed a little song happily, stripped himself naked, walked into the bathroom, took a comfortable bath, changed into clean clothes, and changed the sheets before lying on the bed to sleep. Tomorrow, stay away from the organization and go out of town to hunt. The sky had already darkened, and the stars were twinkling. Yejing, who was tired all day, slept peacefully. He did not sense that a figure had quietly entered his room. Creak. There was a very light sound of the door opening. Siu poked her head out and carefully observed Yejing. After finding that he was sleeping soundly, she quietly came in, tapped the ground with her smooth feet, and walked to the head of Yejing's bed without a sound. Looking at Yejing, who was sleeping very soundly, Siu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at Yejing's exposed neck, she swallowed her saliva, and a look of desire appeared on her pretty face. Suddenly, she shook her head violently, thinking that her neck was not good, and she might wake up if she bit it, which was too dangerous. Thinking of this, in the darkness, Siu's red eyes sparkled like night vision goggles. After scanning Yejing several times, she finally set her eyes on the hand hanging by the bed. Siu held her breath and quietly squatted on the ground. Her white hands lifted the hem of her skirt, revealing half of her long white legs. Looking at Yejing's hand hanging by the bed, Siu's pretty face showed nervousness. Slowly, she leaned over and opened her red lips. She bit up and bit Yejing's index finger. She didn't use much force, but her sharp teeth still pierced Yejing's finger. The blood flowed along her lips and flowed into her mouth. The sweet taste made her look satisfied, and she couldn't help but take 2 deep sips. So sweet, I couldn't control it. Just when she was quietly enjoying the food, in the darkness, a pair of eyes opened. What is it? Yejing felt the discomfort in his body, his dark pupils opened, and he suddenly woke up. He stood up and slapped on the bedside lamp, and the whole room was instantly bright. Then he saw Siu squatting beside the bed. The moment the light came on, Yejing saw Siu squatting beside the bed, with her skirt rolled up, revealing her long white legs, holding his finger, and a touch of red on her pretty face. When Yejing looked at Siu, Siu also looked at Yejing, her pupils slowly widened, her lips slightly opened, and the finger with saliva fell from her mouth. Siu. Yejing. Instantly, an awkward atmosphere filled the air. The staring lasted only a few seconds, and Siu couldn't stand it anymore, and a touch of embarrassment appeared on her face. I said, "This is an accident, do you believe it?" Yejing looked at his fingers expressionlessly, and there were 2 small holes on his fingers, and there were faint watermarks. Huh. He exhaled deeply and was about to say something, but suddenly thought that Siu, squatting on the ground and looking at him carefully, was inexplicably cute. "Get out." Finally, he sighed weakly and pointed outside the door. Sure enough, anger can't defeat a girl, especially a cute queen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 192. Are you not going to chase me away? Siu was slightly stunned after hearing Yejing's instructions, as if she was a little uncomfortable. She herself didn't know how lethal her current appearance was to a man. Siu didn't think too much. After nodding repeatedly, a faint red mist suddenly surged out of her body, and her whole body turned directly into a dark red bat, flying out of the room like escaping. The beautiful scenery disappeared, and Yejing showed disappointment on his face. After sighing secretly, he got off the bed and closed the wide-open door. Remember to close the door next time. Back in bed, Yejing stared blankly at the finger that Siu had sucked. The bite mark on it had healed automatically, but there was still a faint watermark. Yejing pursed his lips, and an idea came to his mind. Lick it? Fun. Yejing slapped this idea out of his head and fell asleep. Then, I had a good dream tonight. When he got up the next day, Yejing went straight to the bathroom. Adolescent boys can't afford to be hurt. After dealing with all the traces, Yejing walked downstairs with a calm face. After going downstairs, he did not see Siu. It was probably because of the night raid last night that he was still a little afraid to see him. Yejing did not care. He ate some breakfast casually, lay on the sofa, and turned on the hanging screen TV. This was watched for 2 hours. Yejing leaned on the sofa, like a rotten fish. What was he going to do today? Forget it, don't think about it, isn't it good to stay comfortably? It was not until his cell phone rang that Yejing remembered today's reservation. After Yejing answered the phone, Gray's voice came over. Come to the Broken Tavern. It seems that there is a mission today. After hearing this, Yejing suddenly realized that I was going to go out of the city today. He had thought about it yesterday. In order to avoid the chief's call, he had to hide outside the city today and try to hunt monsters. Yejing looked at the time, thought about it, and said apologetically, I can't go today. I'm out of the city now. Let's go next time. Gray. When did you leave the city? What did you go out of the city for? Can you bear to let me go alone and be ruined? Yejing said calmly, I can't bear it. How can you care about me? Okay, I have something else to do, I'll hang up first. After saying that, he hung up the phone with a snap, turned over, jumped off the sofa, and went out directly. He was afraid that Gray would come to his doorstep and block him. After going out, Yejing stopped a car and got in. The driver asked, Where are you going? Yejing replied, The Pioneer Guild. He would go to the Pioneer Guild first to see if there were any tasks suitable for him outside the city, and earn some spirit stones instantly. Moreover, he almost forgot some things. He is also a certified pioneer. Thinking about it, he took out the Pioneer crystal card that he had never used from the storage bracelet. Name, Yejing. Affiliated city, Lonely City Ruins, changeable. Pioneer level, D level, can accept D or C level tasks. Number of tasks completed, D*1. Task completion rate, D equal 100%. There is a brief information on the crystal card, which only shows that he has only completed one task. The Pioneer Guild's headquarters is in the Imperial City, while the one in the Demon City is the first branch, which is the largest branch except for the headquarters. The branch of the Pioneer Guild is also a major force in the Demon City, directly located in the first core area of the Demon City, which is the headquarters of the entire Demon City large group force. The people living in the first core area are at least practitioners above the underground palace realm, and they have to rent houses. Ordinary practitioners don't have spirit stones to buy real estate in the core area. The car drove very smoothly, especially after entering the first core area. It was even slower. It took more than an hour to walk around before it stopped. 1,500 spirit stones. Yejing's mouth twitched. It was really expensive. After getting off the car, in front of him, there was a huge building, more than 10 meters high and hundreds of meters wide. The building was made of precious stones, and there were hundreds of defensive symbols engraved on the surface. High-end atmosphere and classy. It is worthy of being a pioneer guild in a big city. It is so magnificent. Yejing sighed. This one can't be compared with the one in the lonely city. Walking into the Pioneer Guild, the majesty and oppression came to him, making him feel tight in his heart and breathe faster. People came and went in the vast hall, either alone or in teams. At the edge of the hall, some people in the crowd were holding signs in their hands and shouting loudly. The tigers are recruiting. The leader is at the 5th level of the underground palace realm. Only those above the 5th level of the human realm are accepted. As long as you join the team, you will receive a gift. The Thunderbolts are accepting A-level tasks. The leader is at the 9th level of the underground palace realm. Now we invite all the brothers in the underground palace realm to do the tasks together. The Flying Foxes are selling the team in a package. All the certificates are available. So chaotic. There were a lot of noises in his ears, saying all kinds of things. Yejing quickened his pace, walked away from the gate, and walked inside. Unlike the Pioneers Guild in the Lonely City, the task release and acceptance of the Pioneers Guild in the Magic City were all managed by machines. The workload was huge, and there were almost no receptionists. In the innermost part of the hall, there was a row of more than 20 black machines, and there was a long queue in front of each machine. Yejing found the shortest queue and lined up. Even so, he waited for more than half an hour before it was his turn. There was a door outside the black machine. Yejing opened the door and walked in. It was a closed space. Inside the machine, there was a translucent screen and a green button, and there was a logo under the button. Yejing pressed the button, and in an instant, a purple light flashed from the top of the machine and scanned Yejing's whole body. A few seconds later, fonts appeared on the translucent screen. Name, Yejing. Affiliated city, Lonely City Ruins, changeable. Cultivation, Human Realm level 9. Land Reclamation level, D level, acceptable D. Add 1 level tasks. Do you want to open the task template? Yes. After a series of fool-like operations, several options appeared on the translucent screen. 1. Magic City and nearby areas, Magic City and other areas. 2. D level, C level. 3. Battle Search Daily Resources. After thinking for a while, Yejing moved his finger and clicked on it. Selection completed, Magic City and nearby areas, Combat C-level missions, searching, search completed. The whole process took only 10 seconds, and Yejing couldn't help but sigh at the great power of high technology. After the search was completed, rows of mission names appeared on the translucent screen, and there were hundreds of missions that met this requirement. It seems that the larger the city, the more enemies there are. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 193. Sea Level Commission, clear out the Green Snake Gang, an evil force entrenched in District 21 of the demonic city. The leader is at the third level of the underground palace. The commission rewards 30,000 spiritual stones. Sea level commission, hunt a ground level monster in the Killen Mountains outside the magic city, and hand in the magic core. The commission reward is 1.3 times the value of the magic core. Sea level commission, federal wanted order, kill the fugitive wanted person Wang Er, third level underground palace level, commission reward 50,000 spirit stones. Yejing flipped through it casually. Among the sea level commissions, most of the strength requirements were from the underground palace realm. However, with his strength, the generally weaker underground palace realm was no match for him. There were too many commissions listed in the list, which dazzled him. He didn't know the general situation and didn't know what to accept. Moreover, there is a limit to the number of commissions you can receive in the Pioneer Guild. You can only have a maximum of 2 commissions in your hands at the same time. You must either complete them or give up, and no more. Just when Yejing Gong was about to accept 2 commissions from outside the city, a commission caught his eye. Sea level commission, a group of phantom beasts appears near Lan Lake, 20 miles south of the Killen Mountains in the Demon City. Please collect their blood and magic cores. The commission reward depends on the number turned in. Phantom beast? Yejing was slightly startled. When he mentioned phantom beasts, he thought of the Alice potion. I heard that it was a hallucinogenic potion that only appeared recently and strengthened mental power. Could it be said? Is the raw material of the Alice potion the blood of this phantom beast or the magic core? The force that issued this commission is to use this phantom beast to make Liz's potion. But why not catch it yourself? What about releasing the commission to outsiders? Isn't it due to lack of staff? Yejing had heard from Xiao Wu before that the force that made Liz's potion was still unknown, but it had been selling it in the outer 5 districts. If it's really the blood of this phantom beast or the Alice potion made by the magic core, wouldn't I be able to do it too? Yejing suddenly thought of his furnace, which had a function that had not been enabled for a long time. Synthesis. As long as you know the raw materials of the items and throw them into synthesis, you can synthesize the items. If it is what he thinks, there is no need to spend spirit stones to buy the Alice potion, you can make it yourself. Take it first and take a look. Yejing made a decision and directly accepted the commission. No matter what, there was nothing wrong with going over and taking a look. It was also good to try his luck. After accepting the commission, Yejing Die walked out of the Pioneer Guild. He had no intention of forming a team with anyone else. He felt that he was enough by himself. A few hundred meters away from the Pioneers Guild, there is a tram that provides pioneers and practitioners with access to the city. This tram was built entirely for the convenience of people like them. After Yejing got on the tram, it was full of people within a short time. The tram followed the track and went straight out of the Magic City. From the first core area to the outside of the Magic City, it spanned the entire Magic City. At the speed of this tram, it took 2 hours to get there without any obstruction. After Yejing got off the tram, he noticed a line of very conspicuous red letters on the exterior of the tram. Come back alive. Just these 4 words revealed the danger outside the Demon City. This was Yejing's first time out of the city. Behind him was a huge city wall that was tens of meters high, and in front of him was an endless wasteland. Compared with the inside of the city, there are ruins outside the Demon City, a wasteland that no one has cleaned up at all. Presumably there are a lot of monsters trampling on it, so there is no need to clean it up. After all, on this fragment of Blue Star, there is only one city, Demon City. Apart from Demon City, other places are unnecessary. Killen Mountains. On this piece of Blue Star fragment, what people care about, besides the Demon City, is the Killen Mountains. The Killen Mountains surround the entire Demon City, and its area is countless times larger than the Demon City. Peaks, lakes, forests, sandy areas, and a variety of natural environments can all be found in this mountain range. Is it near Lanhu Lake, which is 20 miles away from the Qilan Mountains? Yejing murmured, looking into the distance. It was about a few kilometers away from the Qilan Mountains, and it was daytime, so there was no need to worry about monsters appearing in the wasteland. The destination is clear, let's go. Yejing is not in a hurry. He has plenty of time anyway, and he is not afraid of danger. Whenever he turns his head, he can see 2 or 3 practitioners heading towards the Qilan Mountains together. On the flat wasteland, he even saw someone driving a hearse, someone riding a motorcycle, and a few people who could carry transportation with them. It seems that it's time for me to buy a means of transportation, Yejing thought to himself. Every time I go out, I either take a taxi or walk, or have Gray send someone to pick me up. It's so embarrassing, and besides, it's not that I can't afford it. In about 10 minutes, Yejing arrived at the foot of the Qilan Mountains. Looking left and right, he couldn't see the edge and didn't know where it was spreading. The mountains are not high, only a few hundred meters high, but no one knows what dangers may be hidden inside. Before entering the mountains, he saw the familiar red reminder font again. Come back alive. Among the practitioners in the Demon City, no one knows how many people will die in the Qilan Mountains every year, but there is no way, for the sake of resources, for practical experience, for breakthroughs, and for further progress. It is even said that for the safety of the Demon City, they have always moved forward without flinching. When he set foot on the Qilan Mountains, Yejing instantly felt the changes in the air. The air between his breaths became a little hot, and there was a chilling air in the air. He couldn't help but be alert and walked forward with a serious face. The Qilan Mountains were piled with gravel, the peaks were steep, and there were small patches of dead forests. Not long after Yejing stepped in, he plunged into the dead forest. No. What's that smell? Just a few minutes after stepping into the dead forest, Yejing's face suddenly changed. He stopped and looked around cautiously. He smelled a very familiar smell in his nose. This is the smell of blood. The smell of human blood. When the smell of blood drifted into his nose, he took out the golden dragon slayer directly. With the knife in his hand, his heart was stable. What direction? Yejing frowned and sniffed gently, turned his head and looked to the north. Someone should have been attacked by a monster. Go or not? Is there anyone alive? Do you care? After hesitating for a second, 4 words flashed in his mind. Come back alive. The next second, he ran in that direction. Since we have met them, as fellow humans, how can we just ignore them? Let's go over there first. If they are really invincible, we can talk later. The further we run, the stronger the smell of blood becomes. It is very strong and pungent. There must be more than one person injured or even dead.